Hello, everyone. Thank you so much for coming. My name is Will, and I'm actually a software engineer at Airbnb. And before Airbnb, I was at Twitter for 3 years. And at Twitter, Twitter Korean processing was pretty bad. I'm gonna show you how bad it was, and I can only say because I left the company now. So at Twitter, I wrote some Korean processing library, and then I open sourced it thanks to Twitter, and it was called Twitter Korean Text. Now I left, and then I was kicked out of the GitHub organization of Twitter, so I couldn't actually maintain Twitter Korean Text. So I forked it and then started Open Korean Text. So after I started Open Korean Text, I invited these guys and to contribute to Open Korean Text, and when I heard about this event, and I was so excited. So they actually flew right from Korea last weekend. So this is a serious deal for us, right? And please make sure you take one of these stickers. Dahye designed this. And yeah, this is beautiful Korean consonants and vowels, and yeah, and this says Open Korean Text, not a chicken soup or anything else. All right. So that's me, and here's Dahye.
Hi, my name is Dahye. I'm UX designer living in Seoul, South Korea, and now I'm working in a fintech company, fintech startup in Korea. And I contributed graphic design to this Open Korean Text project, especially logo and stickers. Yeah.
Oh. Hi, my name is Mingyu. I am a mobile engineer, and I am a committer for Open Korean Text web project, and I built Open Korean Text API.
Thank you. Thank you. All right, so this is Open Korean Text, and this is a tool for the trickiest language to process and translate. So we believe Korean, well, that's what I believe, and I found working at Twitter, it was the trickiest or the worst language to process and translate. So first, Dahye will show you how to read Korean alphabet. So at this meeting, you will learn how to read and write Korean. So you may be able to write your name in Korean at the end of this. All right, so here's Dahye.
Yeah, so I'm gonna show you how to read and write Korean. So in old days, Korean didn't have writing system at all. So people had to use Chinese characters to transcribe a Korean language. But Chinese characters are too many and too difficult to run. So common Korean people couldn't even write their own name. So King Sejong, who is the greatest king in the Korean history, he invented Hangul, Korean writing system, with his research group in 1443. So Chinese characters are logograms. So it represents some concept like trees and people or sun. But Hangul, the Korean writing system, is phonetic alphabet, so it presents some sounds. So these are Korean consonants. These 5 are main consonants. So you can, as you can see there, these k sounds, it represents the shape of tongue when you make a k sound, and this nu sound, it also represents the tongue when you make nu sound, and also with this s sound. And this is and it represents the shape of mouth when you shut your lips. And this is O, and it's mean nothing. It's a placeholder. So it represents the shape of open tongue or open throat. So these are Korean vowels. So Korean vowels are pretty cool because it represents an yin, yang, and neutral. So this vertical line is in, and it represents the flat earth. A horizontal line is represent flat earth, and this dot is the sun, and this vertical line is neutral, and it's the unlike human mediator between the heaven and the earth. So combining this line and dot together, we can make several vowels. So these are main vowels in Korean. It's a, o, u, i. And adding more line or dots together, we can make some many variation. And these are mnemonics, so it can help you remember Korean. So this first one is nothing, and as I said before, it's a placeholder, so it sounds nothing. And this bucket sounds boo, and this door makes do sound, and this gun it makes g sound, and this letter snake make l sound. It's like R, and this map it sounds like mu, and this nose it makes n sound, and this part 2 it makes p sound, and the last one is summit, and it makes su sound. And these are vowels, and it's tree and brook, and it makes e and u. So let's practice with actual Korean word. It's Korean. So this k with o, it makes o, ko, ko. And this letter snake with tree, it makes ri. And this o is mean nothing. With vowel a, it makes a. And with this nu, this all together make an. So these are ko, ri, an. Ko, ri, an. So it's Korean. So now you can guess the word. Yeah, these are the this table below here is like cheeses. So you can find more common Korean vowels and consonants in here, and with this table you can guess the word in here. So like with k and a, it make ka, and this o all together make kang. Kang, and a second character nu with a make na, and with this map together it makes nam. So these two are kang nam. So you can guess what characters are following. And yeah, so a third one is su, and fourth one is ta. And the final one, so with O and E, like E, and with letter snake, it sounds il. So all together is Gangnam Style. Yeah, so it's Gangnam Style. Yeah. So these are all Korean characters. Mathematically, we can make 1.6 million characters. But in every day, we only use 3,000 practical characters. Yeah, so now...
Yeah, only 3,000, but there are combinations there. They are easy. You don't have to memorize each character. Yeah. All right, so let me cover and talk about some challenges in Korean text processing. So this is how bad it was in 2012 before I joined Twitter, and Twitter trending phrases. So first one's already, and second commute, and pat, rather, and the F word. So it was pretty bad. It was really, really embarrassing. And the reason that, so these are mostly like adverbs. So there's no noun, like only except for like take the commute. So the reason that it happened is like every Korean word, pretty much every Korean like nouns are attached with markers, like subject marker, object marker, and postpositions. So here, this is Twitter, and this is Twitter ka, which is Twitter as a subject, and this is Twitter를, Twitter as an object, and Twitter as a in Twitter. So if you delimit Korean sentence by spaces, then the word Twitter will never be extracted. It's only like Twitter as a subject, Twitter as an object. They are recognized as different words. So the word Twitter will never trend on Twitter. Yeah. and the spacing rules are not strictly observed. So this is like when I saw you. So this is a meaningful chunk of words, and it has subject, object, and the verb. But it didn't use any space. For Korean people, it makes sense. They can just parse it. So they just randomly ignore space rules. So it makes it even harder to tokenize Korean. And adjectives and verbs conjugate like crazy. So this is good, and this is will be good, but this is may be good, and this is it was good. So like in one word, you can squish in all the like grammatical markers, like tense and there's like two different speeches for like respectful speech and then common speech. And also casual usage, and on Twitter, like people just type like crazy. And if you don't put space in between, like Twitter, and these are consonants, k, 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 which is equivalent of LOL in Korean. So k, k, k. And when you just type it without space, it makes Twitter k, 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 and then this k sound will go under the previous character, making it tuck. So it's going to tweet tuck, k, k. So, which makes it so for computer, it's impossible to parse this as Twitter because the character is mangled already. Yeah. And so to solve these problems, I wrote Open Korean text. Well, I wrote Twitter Korean text, and then I forked it later. So it was written in Scala. Like back then, Scala was the only language at Twitter. And also it provides some Java, .NET, Python, Ruby, and Node.js wrappers. And this is all like contributed by like the community. So that's the power of open source. And we also have a like web interface that's built by Mingyu. So this is a web interface. You can just try. This is openkoreantext.org. So what Open Korean Text are mainly three things. Like it has like 6 or 7 features, but mainly these are the main features. So one is normalize. So when you have like tweet talk kak, as I mentioned before, after normalization, the k consonant will be taken away, and then it normalizes back to the normal like canonical Korean writing. And this is tokenizer. So when you tokenize, you can extract Twitter as a word and take it away from this subject marker to separate it from the markers. And there's phrase extractor. So this phrase extractor will take a combination of noun and adjective plus noun, or just a sequence of nouns. So after this, it will extract. This is like new Twitter and Twitter from this sample sentence. So we're gonna actually have some deep dive in how the Open Korean Text works.
Okay. Let's say someone wrote that word, 샤릉해, on your Facebook wall. You don't know this word, so you ask Google to translate it. Google Translate said, shouting sea. Shouting, what's that? Or maybe shouting temple, yeah, which is the famous temple for Kung Fu training is in the mountains and it has nothing to do with the sea. Normalizer of Open Korean text can solve this problem. That word, 사랑해, is normalized to 사랑해 by normalizer. When you ask Google to translate it, it will say, I love you. Yeah, I love you. So now you can see the message was not about Kung Fu, but it means actually someone has some special emotion for you. Oh, sorry. Let's consider this simple sentence. 구글과 페이스북은 아름다운 실리콘밸리에 있다. Google and Facebook are in beautiful Silicon Valley. Tokenizer. Yeah. Tokenizer splits a Korean sentence into Korean words. As you can see, 구글과 is conjunction. 페이스북은 is subject marker. 아름다운, which means beautiful. Silicon Valley, which means in, and 있다, which means are. Now, you have these nouns extracted from the sentence. Here is the result. You can test some Korean text in openkoreantext.org. And you can see 3 nouns, all right? 3 nouns. They are used as keywords. Phrase extractor. Phrase extractor extracts sequences of adjectives, conjunctions, and nouns. So it extracted 5 phrases: Google and Facebook, beautiful Silicon Valley, and Facebook. This is how it's done in action. You can use the tokenizer of Open Korean Text to build a search index. That is how Twitter used the tokenizer Open Korean Text in the first place. Also, using phrase extractor, you can detect trending phrases. Twitter uses the phrase extractor of Open Korean Text to build Korean trends. Finally, you can use Open Korean Text for many other natural language processing tasks. Sentiment analysis, machine translation, Korean big data analysis, feature extraction for machine learning. If we want to know Open Korean Text works under the hood, at the end of this talk, feel free to ask questions, not to me, but to you. Oops. Yeah.
That's it. Yeah. All right. So in this list, like, it doesn't mean that Open Korean Text can do all of these things, but like Open Korean Text can process Korean text to like extract features and extract words to be used in these tasks. So, any questions?
I got a mic right here.
Mm-hmm.
I forgot to mention when I was talking that Roger wanted to make sure that we covered Korean here. And we got to remember to thank Roger. He's very involved. He just hides up there every time and makes me do all the speaking. But there you go, George.
Thank you. Full disclosure, I do work at Apple, and I did work on the Korean tokenizer within Apple.
Yeah.
So this topic is very interesting to me. One of the questions that I had though was, how do you deal with the ambiguity when it comes to like separating out words? I mean, trying to find nouns, for example, or maybe a person's name, and maybe come across something that's like kimchi bae, and it could be a person's name, Kim, family name Kim, and then Chibae is the person's name.
Oh, yes.
Or it could be kimchi bae. And how would you deal with ambiguity like that? I mean, do you train a dictionary or a model for the tokenization, or something else like that?
So yeah, it is a really hard problem in Korean. So like a lot of people like try to solve this with machine learning, and I actually didn't want to do it. So I actually did like rule-based thing stuff. And so the thing is, I just like get all the statistics of Korean word usage, and then I use the statistical model to predict which one is better. And so Korean words has a lot of ambiguity, like 배, the word, actually is a part of his example, and it has like 3 meanings: stomach, and boat, and the pear. So like they are totally unrelated. So these kind of ambiguity, like they actually need to be like looked into. But because I just do it, it's just extract them as nouns, so the meaning ambiguity doesn't really matter. But just like the case that he mentioned, like, what is your name? Sorry.
My name's George Roten.
George
Roten.
George Roten, yeah. As George Roten said, like mentioned, like the kimchi bae is like it can be like tokenized in 2 different ways: kimchi bae and the kimchi and bae. So it's a hard problem, but like with some statistics, I can like mitigate the errors. But that's the best I could do. Yeah. Mm-hmm. So there are a lot of like projects out there to actually take the context into consideration, and then like exactly kind of like predict what the right answer is. But it's but I found it's kind of overkill for this big data analysis, for the big data analysis, and then to build like search index. So the whole purpose of this was like just build search index and find some like meaningful phrases. But for that purpose, it wasn't like that useful. Like, so I just made this like compromise.
How can people contribute to the project?
So you can go to Open Korean Text, so openkoreantext.org, and it'll give you like the right nice UI to test Open Korean Text. And there's a link to GitHub, and then you can just sign up in the GitHub. And I will give you, if you sign up, give you the email address with @openkoreantext.org. So if you're interested, like please send me an email, and I will at openkoreantext.org. And I have some name cards if you want to take this. And please make sure that you take these stickers and then put it on your laptop or the bumper of your car. Any other questions?
Over.
Yeah, we gotta wait for the mic.
Yeah, quick question. Have you guys seen your Open Korean text being reused by other people, and what are they saying? Like maybe in some bigger systems?
Yeah. I heard Foursquare use this system, and I actually heard that Apple considered using this, but I actually didn't hear anything after that. So. Yeah. So and also like so the whole purpose of open sourcing this, like there were actually many companies who worked on this and tried to sell this, and I actually had to like, you know, like I didn't fight with them, but like they had like hard time selling this after this gets open sourced. But I think like Hadoop, like this is a solved problem, and I don't think every company needs to build Korean processor, like, and that's like a redundant investment. So that's why I open sourced it. And also for like companies outside of Korea, it's really hard to do the Korean processing. So they just simply give up, or like big companies like Facebook, Apple, like Google, they can just like build their own, but it's still a hard problem for everyone else. So yeah, with this, I hope like everyone can support Korean processing in their apps. And yeah.
So since localization has become more and more important, since, well, I don't know, if you have a successful product, you want to market it somewhere else and earn money in other markets when your first market is kind of like satisfied. Did you see like an increase in usage, people signing up to contribute to open source? Like,
yeah, there were there is like not many places to contribute for now, because like this is like, as I said, this is a solved problem, and then this Open Korean Text like does pretty good job and providing the like basic functionality for processing Korean. So I actually didn't have like too much contributions, but I had like all the necessary contributions, especially the wrapper for different programming languages, things like that. But like there were some like questions from like Chinese community and like Chinese like engineers, and then like there was like one from like Russian engineer who wanted to use this, and then they integrated this into their system pretty well. So yeah, there are some use cases. It's just sad that I cannot track all of them, and then I want to send them these stickers, but
thanks for the tool. And can I ask about the normalization from sharing head to sharing head? Did you obtain this? Did you set this as a rule?
Yeah. There's a huge like dictionary of like all the common mistakes the Koreans make and all the common like casual usage of Korean words, and then so I just collected with like when I was at Twitter with like Twitter data. There's like tons of like casual Korean that was like butchered by Korean people.
I'm curious how you obtain the true labels.
Well, actually, So. Well, because this is not a really academic project, I actually didn't really need to do it. I just I just had to make it work. so like one day, so here we have some like bad word dictionary as well. So like one weekend, I had to type all these bad words by myself, and it was very depressing.
Thank you.
Yeah, and this one also has like 107 Pokemon names in the dictionary.
It's easy to make a list like that after you try to drive there.
So beyond the segmentation and tokenization, do you have plans to provide additional annotations for, say, parts of speech, semantic relationships?
Yeah, so in tokenization comes with POS tagging. Yeah, and it's not like super academic POS tagging, but it's just easy for like English speakers to understand, because Korean grammar markers are really different. The grammar system is quite different. So, but I simplified it as like noun, adjective, and verb, things like that. Yeah. So, yeah. So POS tagging is also already in place, and this has like stemmer and like detokenizer. So when it's tokenized already, like there's like. So when there's like tokenized input, like I can detokenize it. That's another like different or hard problem in Korean, and then sentence boundary detection. So it has a few more features, and it doesn't like analyze sentence, because that's what other people like. I want other people to build on top of this. So basically, like Open Korean Text is built for building search index and like doing like big data analysis, not for like academic analysis on Korean text. Any other questions? You can ask about like general like Korean IATN or localization questions and stuff. I worked in like localization team at Twitter. I mean that. IATN and like language processing, like those kind of area at Twitter.
I'm interested in the market size. I mean, you know, if Korea was not next to China, right, it would seem like a very large country with a very large market, right? I'm just wondering how it compares. Like when you were at Twitter, there were, you know, how did the user base compare? And you know. I'm just wondering about looking at it as a market, not as a technical problem.
Yeah, so Korean market is really interesting. Korean market is the only market that Google is not having the majority of search, the search market share. And it's like, it was like 3% like a few years ago. And because Korea has its own Naver, Naver is name of search engine in Korea. And Korea uses KakaoTalk as their messenger instead of WhatsApp or anything else. But Facebook is like having like a lot of good penetration. So Korean market is open. It's not like China. There are like there's Airbnb, there's Uber is actually not there, but there are so many Silicon Valley companies doing pretty well there. But like there are also like very strong local competitors. So that makes Korean market like extra interesting. And yeah. You cannot talk before you like the mic.
Yeah, I don't know if I can scream that loud. So, for example, if Korea has really strong local companies too, in addition to international players, is the language quality comparable? I mean, if I always have the impression that Korean is super complicated, and you already said that even Korean people can't spell straight. So, like, if you compare like the local Korean search engine or the equivalent to WhatsApp, the quality they deliver in terms of like the apps, the menus, content in the system in the UI that is Korean.
Yeah.
So is that also bad? Or
yeah, in early days, Google struggled a lot in their search results. Like we have some Google search engineers here, so I don't want to talk too much about it. But,
but that's why I inquired about the quality of the local companies.
Yeah. Okay. So local companies, actually, there's a lot of human labors for this search technology. So there's like artificial intelligence. So there's for some, let's say there's when people search about a Korean presidency election, Korean companies can make their own dedicated page for it, then dedicated contents for it. But Google wasn't not really do it in a few years ago. But now Google Korea is doing pretty good job actually localizing stuff and then serving some special intents. Yeah. So yeah, so Korean the translation is actually, I found translation when I worked in Twitter, like Twitter's UI translation is kind of awkward a little, but at the same time it kind of makes sense, and actually it gives some pretty fresh flavor, because it just shows that this website is very international, even though it's written in Korean. So it has different fresh feeling to it, and so the translation is not a huge problem. But if we actually translate English to Korean and Korean to English, it's really, really hard, because all the expressions are different and the way of thinking are so different. So it's a really hard problem. But so you need to translate it into 3 different expressions. Yeah.
So would you think that, for example, if a global player comes into the market, if they create content that is made for Korea in particular, so if I tailor everything I do to the market itself, that would be good?
Mostly. So Twitter actually once tried to make the Korean version of Twitter, and then it didn't go anywhere. It's not a good idea usually, because international user experience is actually it's supposed to be the best, right? A lot of UX engineers and designers gave a lot of thoughts on it, and making a local version of it is not a good idea usually. So I wouldn't say that that's something to do. And translation was enough for Twitter and Facebook and other companies. And yeah, I believe it's slightly different from China market, because in China market, Airbnb is working on a separate app for China, and it has that much difference. Yeah. Yes.
Can you comment about the market for virtual assistants in Korea?
What?
Can you comment about the market for or appetite for virtual assistants, intelligent virtual assistant
virtual? Oh, like Siri or?
Like Siri, exactly. Yeah.
Oh, okay. So and Google has a Korean version assistants, and but the Korean context may be quite different. So there's a Korean company that does this AI assistance, so and they are doing pretty well there too. And so So there are local competitors, and they're doing pretty well. And the Korean context is very different. And one huge thing is Google Maps doesn't work in Korea, and so the context that Google Assistant or Apple Maps can get is really, really different. So yeah.
Elaborate on what do you mean by context? Why is it better?
So Korea has this special law or strange law that doesn't allow like Google Maps and like other maps from other, like we don't share our like geographic information to other like outside of Korea. So that is a huge like knowledge base for this like assistant to use to make the response for the queries, right? So that's one of the, and also there are, and Koreans have like really fast changing community. So it's really hard for like outsiders to catch up with all these like fast changing like fashion and stuff, and K-pop. Yes.
Okay. Hi.
Okay.
So I have a question regarding the gaming localization.
Uh-huh.
So I know the gaming industry in Korea is super big.
Mhm.
And so I was curious about, have you had the user case on the open Korean text
Mhm.
on the tokenization portion
Mhm.
from Korean games to different languages?
So for translation is mostly his human job. So open Korean text is to analyze existing Korean text, but like for translation, it doesn't help much. So okay.
Yeah, so my question is
Yeah.
because the gaming text,
Uh-huh.
the file is huge. So
Uh-huh.
we're looking into the tokenize the entire file to a
tokenizing, yeah, okay.
much better,
Uh-huh.
sense, during the translation process. So
Uh-huh.
I'm just curious about, have you had any user case on that, on the tokenization part
Oh, I didn't.
in gaming industry?
Not exactly. I haven't heard any, and I don't think like tokenization helps too much on the translation, like in localization, because the human is reading it, right? If it is machine translation, even if it's a machine translation, Google Translation does pretty good job on the like word level analysis, and so like tokenization was not super useful for that. Yeah. And for the gaming industry, like just Koreans are so into it, and they will play if it is fun, no matter what like, what language it's in.
Do you know of anything equivalent to what you built for Chinese and Japanese and other complicated languages? A tokenizer that's really good, that's open source for Chinese or Japanese?
You mean if I know any like Chinese? Well, Chinese has, so at Twitter we used smart tokenizer, Chinese smart tokenizer. So I guess it's supposed to be smart and then do the right thing. So
is it open source, or was it a Twitter product?
It's not a Twitter product. So and I don't think we paid for it. So I think it's and it's open source. And for Japanese, there's a MeCap, MECAB, MeCap, yeah, and that's a pretty good tokenizer and really fast. And so there's a Korean version of it, but like it didn't have like really good dictionary, so it's like performance is limited a little, but it's really good. Yeah.
Okay. Mm-hmm. Thanks.
Mm-hmm. So Japanese and Korean are both. So Japanese also has like postpositions and grammatical markers attached to it. So the grammar is really similar. It's just Korean can mangle the character itself, because Japanese characters are like fixed, so you cannot really change it. So that makes Korean the trickiest language, and Japanese the second trickiest.
I work in speech synthesis, and I wanted to ask first, what do you think of like Google speech synthesis for Korean, and what are the challenges that you think there are for speaking Korean?
Google's speech recognition?
Speech synthesis, so the voice.
Speech synthesis. Okay. Well, I actually haven't heard Google speaking Korean too much.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
But are there, for example, are there many pronunciation issues, or is it completely phonetic? Can you just read?
Yeah, it's there are like some phonological rules, but mostly it's phonetic, unlike English, right? So English.
So do you have, for example, many homographs where a word would be written the same way but read differently or something?
So there are some, but that doesn't really change like too much. So yeah, so there are some special rules, but it's like, well, you shouldn't ignore them because like they still make difference, make senses in the words. But can you actually pass the mic?
So as someone that has a lot of experience with this, Korean is very phonetic. So as far as doing that, that's not a problem. As soon as you start trying to attach particles to your nouns, like you're showing like the subjects and so forth, that starts becoming interesting as soon as you start mixing scripts. So for example, if I were to say, call Jenny or call Mark or Eric, the E, if I'd be Jenny or Eric, it's supposed to be like person, the particle, and then call.
Oh yeah.
And the particle that you attach becomes, it varies depending on the final vowel of the word, and that's where the synthesis starts coming up as an issue. It's if you know what to put in there, it comes out fine. But first, you have to know when you're creating the text, when you're putting together, how it comes out. Even something like home, does home end with an E or not? Does it end with a vowel? It doesn't sound like it ends in a vowel, but it looks like it ends in a vowel.
Yeah. So Korean, when Korean transcribe English, it's very different from what English actually sounds like. So when they mix Korean words, English words in Korean, like when you actually, so Korean the speech synthesis engines actually usually use the Korean version of it, and then when like American speakers speak, hey, call Eric, which is like Eric에게 전화해, but it's not Eric, it's Eric. So it's so the system can be like super confused about it, and then as he mentioned, like Eric에게, and then Eric에게 means to Eric. So 에게 is to, but like when they are put together, like it's really hard to know like where to cut it, and Korean tokenizer will actually be able to help that. Yeah.
I just want to go back to one of your slides. If you could explain the Google Translate problems, why it suffered with "I love you, Shaolin Si." Like, what about that phrase? Because you think of it as a very common phrase, like machine translation should just do it.
Yeah.
So, what are the specific issues with it that kind of
destroyed? So here, like 사랑해 is like So 사랑해 is like it's the like on Twitter. Like if you want to say 사랑해, but you're kind of embarrassed, so you want to just like say it in a like soft and weird way. So it's 사랑해, and it's like
okay, so
it's a completely out of vocabulary word.
I see.
So it's not really a Korean word at all, and they just mangled it. But like Open Korean Text, like out of all the text data that I had on Twitter, and then I saw like people use this 사랑해 word to make it sound more interesting. So
more curious. I've seen Chinese keyboards and Japanese keyboards. Is a Korean keyboard the same idea of?
I am very proud of Korean keyboard sound like keyboard. So Korean keyboards. All right. So Korean consonants and vowels are mapped into like all the QWERTY keyboards. So and they fit into like English alphabets. So so we can, and we using shift, like this is G and this is G, and that's like slightly different like way of saying the K sound. And to do that, you just use Shift. So there's no capitalization, so you can use Shift to change the sound of consonant. And I'm so proud that our characters, like consonants and vowels, fit into the QWERTY keyboard, which is not the case for most Asian languages.
I think most people haven't seen it work, and you type these out, and then they all jump together.
Yeah.
It's kind of fun to play with, even if you have no idea what it says.
People invent new words every day,
yeah.
like new trending words. I wonder if this is something that open source people can contribute, adding more new words into the glossarium.
Yes, please. Because I've been doing mine manually. Yeah. I had to do it like manually, but like Open Korean Text is like, because it's like designed for Twitter, it's really good with like out of vocabulary words. So it detects pretty good, like it detects out of vocabulary nouns pretty well. So that's like first line of defense, but I always welcome like people's contribution on like the crazy new words. Yeah, especially when there's another like Pokemon came up and we need their name.
Hi, this is probably it's kind of ignorant of me, but I don't know anything really about Korean too much. But I do a Chinese a lot. So is there any equivalent of pinyin in Korean language? Like
you
a
mean like
transliteration?
Roman?
Yeah, in English. So like kamsamida, like K-A-M. That's the only Korean word I know. Sorry.
There was one attempt like 20 years ago, like 30 years ago, but like we don't do it anymore because the Korean typing is pretty straightforward.
For Koreans.
For Koreans, yes.
So they just tried it. They tried it once and just gave up.
For Koreans, it is. And for English speakers, you use Google Translate.
Okay, so they just tried it once, and then because Chinese they tried it many times, right? They have pinyin, they have Wei Giles, they have I don't know, they had so many iterations of it, like and so I guess they didn't try too hard.
Yeah, we just like when there was no Korean keyboard, like some people tried it and then found it's not really useful. So yeah, we gave up on it.
Okay.
So actually, yeah, and while the mic is getting transferred, let me show you how the Korean like typing works. So in Gangnam style, this is ga, and I type this in sequence. And I'm putting space in between now, and when you type them in sequence, it just put them together. Yeah.
IME magic.
Yeah. So yeah, here's okay.
Hey, all right. Thank you very much for the talk. I have a question that so there are certain English words that use in Korea only, like fighting.
Okay,
that doesn't mean
fighting.
that you fight, but you encourage people to do something well.
Yeah.
So if you type that word in English, like FIGHTING, does it recognize as like a Korean meaning of fighting, or does it recognize like a dueling or combating?
It's like you mean in Korean, like when Korean. So fighting is never about fighting, like actual like physical fighting in Korean at all. It's always like when you say go Korea in like soccer game, like when you say go Korea, we say fighting Korea. We don't know why. We don't know why fighting means like way to go or go, but yeah. But and it's always like but like Open Korean Text doesn't recognize the meaning, like so we don't do any like semantic analysis on it.
So is it okay if I type in English, or should I always type in Hangul?
If you type in English, you mean like for the Open Korean Text to process it?
Yeah, exactly.
In Open Korean Text, like English words are just chunked as English words, and I don't really look at it at all. So I only care about the Korean chunks.
And if I type fighting and in a Korean Hangul, it may recognize as a Korean.
Yeah,
and
Korean,
show the meaning.
And there's no meaning attached to it. We just take it as a noun. Yeah.
All right. Okay. Yeah. Thank you.
So I'm wondering if there are any issues that arise when you have English words inside Korean text, or like spacing, because you mentioned that for Korean people, spacing doesn't really matter. But for like when it is with English number or with number, for example, or any other issues.
So even Koreans respect English space rules because otherwise it doesn't really make sense. So like when we mix in English words, we use spaces, and then the tricky part is, as we mentioned before, is when the Korean particles are attached to it, like Twitter ka as a subject, and you can write Twitter as in English TWITTER and then ka in Korean, and then like so when I first like tried. When I at first at Open Korean Text, I just like ignored all the English words and then just delimited by space and then just ignored them, and then there was ka with a single word, and what is this? Without the word in front of it, it just doesn't mean anything, or it also means go. So it's really confusing. So like Twitter ka should be like actually like. It has to be. We have to take the context into consideration a little. So like the English written words need to be processed as well. Yeah.
Okay. Who else wants it? I can throw from here. That's true. This is a lot harder than the one at Netflix. Well, I guess, you know, we have Google said something here.
What is it?
How does this, well, you're at Google, so you can't criticize, but it's, I'm trying to get Translate to work here.
Okay, makes sense. So Google speech synthesis was pretty good. I'm not saying it because there are Google engineers here. So yeah, it said thank you, and thank you for coming here and like, participating in this talk. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you.